Hi guys. Okay, welcome back to part 2, 3. There's going to be a lot of parts to this. I wanted to touch more on the previous video about my autistic daughter living on her own. She, like I said, is 26 years old and she's been living on her own now for uh, 6 years. She had an apartment, and there's a whole host of things that come with our adult autistic kids living on their own. Any disabled kids living on their own, or I mean, we worry when any kids live on their own, but it's a whole nother thing when our autistic children live on their own. Especially I hate to say especially girls, but girls, moms and dads, I think worry a little bit more. And autistic kids are just a little more easily led and taken advantage of. And it brings a whole host of, extra concerns. And, my daughter pays her own bills. Her money comes in and she sits down and she pays them bills. She's real good with that. And I learned over time, this is her place. Don't move her things around. Don't, don't change things because I wanted to go, I'm moving this, moving that. It's like, no, it's my place. And she's right. This is her stuff. So, so I had to slow that roll. But I will say my daughter, a few years ago, was assaulted in her apartment. And I'm sorry, it's very hard to talk about. The scumbag man who did that is in prison for a very long time. I don't want to go into details, but I feel like I'll carry that the rest of my life, the guilt. Like, oh, should I have let her live on her own? Should I have let her move out? Was this a mistake? And she says no. She's not sorry she lives on her own. I mean, we did all the things. We made sure she had a taser, and we made sure that, security and strangers and be careful. And it's just a long story how it happened, but she's doing well. She ended up in counseling. Well, she had been in counseling, but we got her separate counseling for the assault. And she's doing very well. She's recovering very well. It was a scary thing. I was like, oh, you have to come home, and it was frightening. And she said something to me once. She was like, Mom, that could have happened to anyone. Like, I think she was trying to comfort me and say, it's not your fault, and it didn't happen because I'm autistic. It could have happened to any girl. And I like, logically I know she's right, but the mom in me is like, come home, move home, move home. But yeah, that was a few years ago, and she's doing beautifully now. So, and she drives, so she kind of gets around on her own. We do that thing where I'm sorry, I'm not very techie, but where I can see her location, and she can see mine. So I'm in constant touch with her, and I know where she is and how she's doing. The reason I brought that up is I know that a lot of moms and parents, they're afraid to have their kids live on their own, or do anything on their own. I was for a long time. I was always afraid to kind of let her spread her wings, so to speak, right? So I get that nervous feeling, but we need to do that. We need to let them make mistakes. God forbid, let them get overdrawn. Let them have to deal with, oh no, I was overdrawn and I'm charged $30. What do I do? Little things. I'm not talking major things. Major things, she could call her sisters or her friends, and she has resources. And I get that my daughter is in a very good place as far as resources. So she loves her private space. as I mentioned in a previous video, if she doesn't have that quiet, private space of hers, she doesn't function well. She has to just like be alone, and I call it decompress. Um, and she needs that. She always has, even as a child, she would go into her room and she goes into her own little space, and she enjoys that. Like she has to have that. I all this to say, I'm not sorry that she's living on her own. I'm not sorry that she drives. I'm not sorry that I encourage her to do things on her own, to kind of spread her wings a little bit on her own. And I would encourage other parents to let your kids, do things on their own. Let them try and teach them it's okay to fail as long as you learn from the failure. And I am not sorry for that at all. She's doing well from that. And she is quiet. She's one of these people who make mistakes, and she's not big to call me and go, "Oh, Mom, this happened and fix this and fix that." She's really strong. And yeah, and she's learning a whole new, a myriad of lessons now that she owns her own home. You gotta mow the lawn, and there's not a landlord you can call when things break down. Now she calls Dad, So I'm just kidding. So yes, things break down, you gotta pay your bills, take care of your lawn, and there's a host of other issues that I want to be here to guide her through some of that. So don't be afraid to let your kids explore, spread their wings, date, go to that party, go out with their friends. I get being nervous, and again, I don't speak for everyone. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm just speaking my thoughts. You know your kid better than anyone. If them going out on their own is a really bad idea, don't do it. Use your gut. My gut told me that she needed her own space. She told me she needed her own space, and we did that, and that works for us. So yeah, I will probably be back with part 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because there's just so much. There's so much in this whole autism journey that to talk about. So yeah, so be cautious, look out for them, help them, but don't be afraid to let them. So anyway, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.